You're welcome to the maiden edition of the series titled The Role Models, which is targeted at providing counsel to youths who probably are struggling with making sustainable life decisions. Our speaker here today is no other person but Mr. Bayo Oriade, who is a seasoned management consultant who has worked with local and multinational companies in diverse industries. Today, he'll be sharing his experiences with us, his management journey experiences, and trust me, you don't want to miss this. So, stay tuned. Whichever way you're watching this, wherever you are, stay connected, stay plugged in, and enjoy this journey. It's so nice to have you on this show.
Thanks for having me.
Can you just introduce yourself so that our audience can get to know you?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. So, my name is Bayo Oriade. I'm a graduate of Adebayo University, so greatest if you have a quality in Nigeria. I have a bachelor's in economics, and I graduated about 5 years ago now, so 2015. In terms of my professional life, after NYC, I have about 3 to 4 years of work experience, particularly in management consulting. So over the years, I've worked in KPMG, worked in PwC, and most recently worked in Bain and Company. And my experience basically is seeing me help companies solve some of their toughest challenges. So that's what I do in my day-to-day work. So yeah, that's sort of a bit about me in terms of my professional space, and I guess from a personal perspective.
This is a whole lot. You worked Bain and Company, and then KPMG. Can you shed more light on your background? These are top multinational companies, from Bain and Company to even KPMG, right? And you schooled in Obafemi Awolowo University. Please, how did you do this? What's it like working with these firms? What's your background? Tell us your story.
Right. So basically, how I got into this firm and
Yes.
what informed it.
Yes.
Yeah. I think for me it was all about information and knowing that there were companies out there like this. So I remember when I was in my third year of university, someone told me about a company called McKinsey and Company. So I don't know how much you know about it, but it's like one of the top management consulting firms in the world. And then, I went online to just Google about them a bit, and I went to Glassstone and saw some of the things there. And some of the things that attracted me was, if you think about a young guy from where you never traveled out of Nigeria before, I heard if you work in McKinsey and Company, today you work in London, tomorrow you work in Singapore, tomorrow you work in USA, and the thrill of, being able to travel up and down, free, stay in nice hotels was like, yeah, this seems like the place to go to. So I started doing a bit more research into what management consultants do and what some of these firms do, and I learned that it's them helping to solve business problems really, and that you learn a lot. And so for me, that was the main trigger. That's why I sort of decided to pursue management consulting as a career. I think at that point when I was interested, it was like 2015 or 16. McKinsey was the only one present in Nigeria, and like every sort of Nigerian student that has only schooled here in Nigeria, I also had this preconception that you have to have schooled abroad, to get into this kind of multinational companies, and that they won't accept you or whatever. So for me, I was like, okay, my parents might send me abroad, so how can I get in there? I was like, okay, one good way to be, first of all, get local experience. So like the KPMGs and co, the PwCs and co. And they offer a lot of internships. So I talk to people, try to understand how to get those internships and all that. And luckily enough, one thing led to another. I was able to do internships in KPMG. From there, I did PwC. From there, I did in somewhere called Whitehall Capital. And for me, during this period, I was just trying to build my CV. Up to the point where I'd be able to apply to like maybe a McKinsey or a Bain or whatever. And that was basically my journey so far until I got into the firm I wanted to, which was Bain. Yeah.
Wow. You've talked about information, and you were informed, and that is one thing that many Nigerian youths are struggling with. They have access to these platforms, but you see that we don't know how to access this information, or I don't know what is it with Nigerians and having access to information. What do you think it's because you've talked about your journey from working with from doing internships, taking internships, and to now building with these international companies, right? So Nigerians, is it that we don't have access to information, or we're not just interested? Where does this gap lie?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of lack of access to information. I think it's also a combination of lack of access to role models, right? So you go online. I remember, for example, during my time, I googled it, and then I checked on McKinsey on Ireland, and they were saying, oh, if you work in this company, they'll give you a brand new car.
Wow.
They'll pay you 500 grand per month. I feel like it's a lie. Like, which kind of company is that one in Nigeria? And when it's not oil company, even oil company doesn't pay that, right? So, even though, like I said, there's lack of access to information, but there's also debate about seeing people that have done it before to give you the belief that jobs like this actually exist.
So,
so
just hold on. Do they exist?
Yes, they do exist.
This is more of a career path. I would like to take us back a bit. You were talking then that at a certain point, maybe your 300 level, started thinking of McKinsey and other stuff. When do you think it is appropriate for somebody to be thinking about career, or what kind of course to somebody, or is this open to general course now? Okay, at the point in time, I'm studying English, I can actually say, okay, I want to go into consulting. I'm studying home economics, I can say I want to go into consulting. Or is it maybe right from people from secondary school also can actually say, okay, have some kind of focus right from there?
I don't think there's. At some point in university, you need to start thinking. Maybe secondary school might be a bit early, because I remember when I was in secondary school, I wanted to be an automobile engineer, but I'm not an automobile engineer any longer. So dreams change, right?
Yeah.
But I think realistically, at your second year in university, is a good time to start thinking about what you want to do with your life. And I say this because you've entered university, you started to gain exposure, to other people that come from different walks of life. I've told you about their families, what they do, and stuff like that. You started doing business courses, or you started doing courses. Lecturers have started giving you more research to do on things. So the point is that you're getting exposed, right? So I think by second year in university, you've gotten 1 year of full exposure. By that time, you need to start thinking of what do I want to do, and which is where internships come in, right? Because you don't need to say I want to be this at this point in time. But what you need to do is to say, okay, I know there are things called internships. Let me do test here. And at some point, you will find what you want. So, which gives you if you're doing a 4-year course, it gives you from year 2 to 4 to do it. So when you have your holidays, or your holidays are approaching, talk to people out there, do some research. Who is offering internship? Forget about the company. Sort of do it, see the experience you like. You do this one, I don't like this kind of job. Next year again, next holiday, you do another internship again, and you get another experience. And that helps mold and sort of gives you an idea as to what you want to do. So I think for me, the second year is the right time to start thinking about it, and to start trying different things to get to where you want. Of course, there's some people that have very strong passions, that they want to be a doctor or whatever. For those people, they already sorted out. And for more like people like me that didn't know what I wanted to do, internships were a good way to decide that for myself.
Let me stay with Kunle's question. Now, our educational system in Nigeria is 6334, and for the last 33, senior secondary education, you have to choose between sciences, commercial, arts, so that lays the foundation for what you are going to do in the higher institution. Now, for instance, a senior secondary school student who does not even know what he wants to do, does arts, and then gets into the university, is studying public sector arts, for example, and feels like, no, I want to be an engineer. How do you now get back to being the engineer? Because you don't have a science background.
So just to stress on it, I come from the art background. Like, I studied in temperature, and then I did my master's in communications, and then I'm here in an IT firm.
Yeah.
Right. So, how do you bring all of this together?
Exactly.
Then. Right.
Well, I think that's where I guess one, parents come in, and two, the quality of teachers or quality education system also comes into, right? I think as parents, like you say, when you're about to make that decision, you should start talking to your children as to what they want to do and everything. Now, for me, the distinction between arts and business and whatever, for me, doesn't really matter, because if you do business or arts, you can basically do anything with it in the Nigerian system today. I think the main difference is for people that do science courses, which will limit you to like doctoring and engineering versus business versus arts, which is where I said, you need to start talking to your children. What do you want to do? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be an engineer? And so once you start to have those conversations with them, it helps them to, understand what they want to do. And at least, from a planning perspective, that helps them make the right decision. So that's one thing. But of course, people will always change, right? I might tell my mom today I want to be an engineer, and I enter university and I realize I see something I have a different passion for. At that point, it's one of two things. You either change your course if you feel like you want to change it and if it's possible, or you do it and then maybe you try to get a second degree or something. It's up to the person how they feel about it. But I think it's easier to do the planning from the beginning and have the right support system in terms of parents, sort of having those conversations with their children. Not too deep as to do you want to work, where do you want to work. For more high level questions like what do you want to be? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a business person? Because you can make decisions between do you want to build cars, so for me that's the way to go about it.
But talking about support system now and the parents, we've had instances where you see a parent talking to his 10-year-old child and saying, Mommy, this is daughter is actually a doctor. You also must be a doctor.
No, but 10 years it's too early, right?
I'm actually talking from experience.
Okay.
Yeah, so, my mom actually told me very early I was going to be a doctor, and despite the fact that I'm science inclined or not, she, and at the end of the day, you find out principals actually, there's always a sheet where they tell you a remark where they tell you, oh, arts inclined, science inclined, all this kind of, and then parents still see, irrespective of being inclined, you're still going to be what I want you to be, So how do you now, how does the Nigerian youth now have to work around all those things? Because we battle some kind of parents stereotype in Nigeria to where they actually condemn you to a particular line. So how do you think we should a Nigerian youth should actually take all of this?
So it's a good question, and it's unfortunate that sometimes very young children get faced with that sort of pressure. But I think by the time you're in secondary school, right, you're about to enter university, a good way to convince your parents that the stereotype they have might not be the right one is to show them other successful examples, which is where being able to leverage the internet and the powers that it offers comes into play. So if you want to be a musician, for example, as a secondary school child, you already have access to the internet and phone. Google Michael Jackson, show them Michael Jackson. Google Lady Gaga, or whatever person you like, or if it's someone in Nigeria. At the end of the day, the reason why parents are pushing is they want you to be successful, they want you to have money, they want you to take care of them in the future. Show them Michael Jackson, Google Michael Jackson's net worth for them. This is what he has. This is a musician. This is the number of followers he has. If you break it down for them that way, they will understand that okay, actually, musicians are not just people that hang around the street and say they're in the studio. But if you just keep telling them, I want to be a musician, I want to rap, just like what are you saying? You're saying nonsense. Right. So I think people need to leverage the resources that internet gives us to convince their parents that the careers they want to pursue and have successful examples of people that have done it very well. That's a good way to go about it.
Yeah, the other time we were talking about career and choosing career. I wanted to ask, do I have to put in mind a certain courses? Maybe as I'm going through maybe I have to study economics, or I have to study banking and finance, or I have to study a certain course before I can actually take that kind of a career path, and maybe as an example, management consulting.
Right. So the question is, do you need to be a management consultant? Is there a particular course you need to study?
Yeah, because if you look at Nigerian system nowadays, it says something about being an art student, being a commercial, and then at the end of the day, science. Right. So you may be coming from any background at a point in time, and at the point in time, you now want to say, oh, I want to choose to this thing. Will that background allow you to actually shift to?
Right. And it's a good question. I think for management consultancy, you don't need any particular course or educational background to be able to do it. Because at the crux of it all, what we do is problem solving, and everybody learns how to problem solve. So I mean, you can be a doctor. I'll tell you how can we solve a problem, right? You're not necessarily using any particular knowledge. You can ask me like, how can we solve a problem as well. Basically, it's engaging your brains on how to solve a problem. Of course, as a management consultant, you will still need to do research about an industry and stuff like that to make informed decisions. But what you're really doing is you're solving a problem. So you can do the same research I can do, and Google and see whether this is a good company or not. I can also do the same research. So from a course perspective, management consulting is very agnostic in terms of courses you can research. You can study. So to answer your question, no, you don't need to specialize in any course. Anybody can do it. But of course, the requirements are that you have to be someone who's very smart. You have to come up with a very good grade, things like that. You have to have shown that you can work in a team. You have to show that you can lead a team. You have to show that you can problem solve. So in some of these companies, when you go for their interviews, you see, aside from just telling you to solve a problem, they want to get experiences of when you've led a team to solve a difficult problem, because they are trying to see would you be a good fit. Because these are the things we do day in, day out. You're managing clients, you're solving problems, you're leading teams, and stuff like that. But from a cost perspective,
yes. Now, a lot of our youths would actually want to place more emphasis on what they get in return, like salaries and what have you. So, at the point of starting up, you were not particular about salary.
No, I wasn't.
You wouldn't have taken internship if you were particular about. So, for our youths coming up, do you think they should actually be particular about the salary, or they should just start up being
I think the experience is what matters the most, right? Which is where internships come up. Because no one will lie, salary is important, money is important to help you. Which is why it's good to start early, so you build the experience, and when you're about to get a real job, you can now feel like I'm experienced enough to go for a job that gives the salary I want. Going into your first job, no experience, nothing, it can be a bit hard to get like the kind of jobs that are high paying. So for me, I think if you start early enough and you go into those internships, trying to build the skill sets that are required to get into the good companies, I think that's how people should focus and think about it when they are looking to grow their career paths.
And also, when we look at these companies, style, what do you actually look out for? For instance, some will tell you there are some companies that are very toxic. Some would actually delay your probably gratifications and probably elevations and all that. So, what do the youths actually need to look forward to? Look before actually taking roles into these companies.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of things, but I think first of all, it depends on what the youth wants to do with their life, right? So, if you want to be a doctor, then I need to be looking at hospitals, right? If I want to be an accountant, I need to be looking at big fours, right? So, I think first of all, the first thing you need to do is to know what do you want to do. Once you know what to do, of course, you need to then research and see what companies are out there. And then once you do that, I think some of the things you need to look at are one, culture. It's very important. Two, you need to look at the professional development opportunities available in that company. So is this a company where you will learn? Is this a company where you'll be pushed, where you'll be challenged to do, more than what you think you can do, but you can actually do? Is this the company where you get the right support? Is this the company with the proper brand name? Because brand name is very important. So is this the company with the right brand? So those are some of the things you need to do when you look at what sort of companies to work with. So just to recap, I would say culture, development opportunities, a good support system, and then definitely the brand. Those four things. Why it was important.
Okay. Now, sorry, I would like you to elaborate more on what you call culture, so that for our viewers who actually know company culture.
Yeah. I think it's a good question. Culture is very multifaceted. I think for me, right, so let me give an example here because I think it's easier to understand that way. So think about let's have company A and company B, right? Think about a company A where you sort of go in and you have to tell the Oga that, good morning sir. And then if he says, this is how I want it to be, you just have to say yes sir. and you don't do anything. It doesn't encourage you to come up with ideas, and they stifle any innovative ideas you have. That's one aspect of culture, right? So giving you room to even breathe out. There are other aspects of culture, so like how they support you and all that, but that's one aspect. And then think about a company B where it's very open door. The orga comes up with an idea where it's like, look, I know you guys might not have the experience I have, but what are some of the things you think we can do to improve on this idea? And then everybody has the floor to talk, no matter how junior you are or how new you are. So that's one aspect of culture, which is why I say culture is very multifaceted. So in terms of like the opportunities to be able to speak out, in terms of the opportunities to have proper work-life balance. So there's some companies where today is a Sunday, but they will call you and tell you that you need to be in the office today. And then you'll be like, I want to go to church. They'll be like, where's your church? Why is your church 4 hours from? Why are you spending 4 hours in church? You need to work today. And then some companies that will respect and be like, okay, your work hours are Monday to Friday. We will never interrupt you on the weekend, right? So those are some aspects of culture. So it's very cross-cutting. But those are examples that I think maybe will help people understand when I say culture.
Okay. Now, when you talk about this culture, say for instance, I get into a company, I don't know from the outside that that's their culture. I have to frustrate and greet the yoga, and all those kind of cultures. I don't know they have those kind of culture. Now, getting in, I see those culture. What would you advise the youth to do? Do I resign or do I wait and try to see if I can actually change things?
Yeah. So at that point, right, is more of remedy. For me, my advice, first of all, which you asked what are some of the things you look at when you're trying to start a company. For me, I expect that you've already done some due diligence and you've done some research already. And today, you're in the information world, right? There's Nairaland, there's Glassdoor. You can speak to, even if you don't know people, you can speak to. Nairaland is a very good place for information, right? So I expect that where you're going to, you have an idea of what you're going to meet, and you're not going in blank. To me, that sounds like you've not done your proper research. Now, in the situation where you do find yourself in that kind of environment, I mean, it is what it is. You're not the boss. You can't dictate it. I think if it's something that you don't like, or if something that stifles you, or if something that is very negative, then I mean, by the side you can start looking for a place that you think will enable you to be a better person. But while you're there, you just try to conform to what the rules are, because the job in hand is better than nothing, right? Everybody needs to be economically buoyant. So that would help in my advice.
All right, thank you so much for that insight. Now, moving on, you've talked about part of your management consultant. Please, what is management consultant? I'm sure people want to know, what do these people do? What do you do?
Right. So, I think one of the easiest ways to explain what management consultants do is to say we are doctors of businesses. So think about when you're sick and you go to the hospital and the doctor has to help you solve whatever problem you have and help you be okay. So that's what management consultants are. Businesses get sick, they have problems, and then they call management consultants to help them solve the problem. So for example, I was having a discussion this afternoon about management consultants, and someone was telling me about Go-Kada, when the government placed the ban that you couldn't carry people again. And that's the problem for Go-Kada, right? They built their business around carrying people and using that to be profitable. Now they have a problem because the government has said they can't carry people again. That's where we come in. So Go-Kada is coming to meet us to say, look, we still want to survive as a business, we still want to be profitable. How can we solve that? And then that's when we come in and say, okay, what can we do here? What can we do in the short term? What can we do in the long term? For example, in the short term, what can we do to keep the business afloat? So how do you sort of manage costs in the meantime while you're still trying to figure out what the new revenue streams would be, and you sort of need to take loans or whatever to sort of remain afloat. And then in the long term, you definitely need to look at new revenue streams. So what are the resources you have today? What are the capabilities you have today? What adjacent services can you use those resources to do? So if you think about Go-Kada, they carry people today, but it means you can probably carry cargo, right? And you can carry goods, so you can start to do a dispatch system. And so we recommend ideas to them like that, and then we sort of say, this is how you should implement it, this is in what phase it should be in, and then you help them solve it, and then Go-Kada becomes a company again that is back to profit making.
So is it that you just provide these strategies, or do you really help in implementation? Because ideas are everywhere. People
Yeah.
have ideas. You can easily go to Google and get these frameworks downloaded, right? Do you help with implementations? And can you throw more light on
Yeah,
implementation?
we help implementation. It depends on what the client wants. So some clients tell you they want you to come up with strategy for them and also support them in how to implement it. And some clients just want a playbook on what to do and then we're hands off and they implement it themselves. But just to be clear, so we don't misconstrue what we mean by implementation. So, for example, if we solve the Go-Kada problem now, we're not going to be the one to help them develop the IT system or the cargo or whatever. But what we're going to do is to explain, for example, okay, you want to go into cargo. These are the factors you should be thinking about in how you develop a delivery system, and then we sort of guide them, coach them, side by side with their own resources in implementing too. So just to be clear about that. But yes, we do implementation when we are asked to.
Now you talked about Go-Kada and the fact that just one policy actually took them out of business. That's for the bike hailing aspect. Now, what about providing this sort of consulting to the government? Because who are those people who actually make these policies? They are the government, and so one of these policies can actually take these people out too. How about consulting for the government too, and also helping them make good policies?
Yeah, I mean, look, if the government needs help, they can always ask for help. I think as a consulting firm or as a management consultant, you always want to give back to society, which is where pro bono consulting comes in. So we're always more than happy to sort of work with the government and partner with them to make the right policies to enable, enabling business environment for people. So where the opportunities are there, we will explore it if we're called or if we feel like it's the right time to assist the government.
Wow, what a session. I feel like we should go on and on, but we have to draw the curtains here. But one last question. You stressed on problem solving, irrespective of your background. We all must solve problems. I would do want to remember that. Now, in today's society, in light of COVID-19 and whatnot, right? Businesses are failing because they don't have any space in the cloud, they don't have any tech platform in that sense. Is there any connection between management consulting and technology? Is there any link? Is there any relationship? What is the future of management consulting as far as technology is concerned?
It's a good question. I think there's definitely a link in technology. I think there's a link in technology to everything we do today because it can't be ignored. Technology is the future. I think more specifically for consulting, the link is in how we use technology to improve the kind of advice that we give clients today. So if you think about some of these big companies, they've already started opening like advanced analytic arms. In the past we used to use Excel, for example, and PowerPoint to drive home your points to clients. But now like we're using like Tableau, we're using Ultra. I don't know if you know about Tableau or Ultra, but like these are like advanced analytic tools, right? So there's definitely a world for technology in how we serve clients. If I even think about it, before COVID started, the way we work is you are the client side from Monday to Thursday, and then on Friday you go back to the office. I mean, COVID came, we had to start using Zoom, right?
Yeah, work from home.
And work from home. So there's definitely a big linkage, and I think the role that technology will play in consulting is basically just to enhance the level of advice that we give to business leaders.
Wow, thank you so much for this. Now, do you have any last words for people out there? Anything they should know? Any last thoughts on management consulting and you as an individual? What it is? Anything we should know? Just to wrap it up.
Yeah, maybe not on management consulting, but I would just say that look, we are in a global world at the moment. There's a lot of information that this generation has that the past generation did not have.
Yeah.
And so people should just leverage that to make the right decisions, right? Go out there, Google, ask for information, and just make informed decisions. The world is your oyster. Just take advantage of the fact that you were born in a technological era and make the best use of it. It's would be my advice.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Oriade. It's so good to have you. We look forward to having you probably when you're the special advisor to the president of Nigeria, and even Africa in a big sense. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining us, and we look forward to having you on our next session coming up soon. Bye for now.